Hey there, and welcome to another segment of Coffee Talk. Joining us today is Beth Fitch, founder, partner at Righi Fitch Law Group. With over 32 years of civil defense experience, Beth counsels accounting firms and other professional service firms on cyber liability and insurance issues, data privacy, cyber risk management, and risk transfer strategies, and cybersecurity best practices. Welcome, Beth. We are honored to have you and join us for Coffee Talk today.
Great to be here.
So what's going on in the cybersecurity industry? What kind of cases are you seeing, Beth?
So we've seen, not surprisingly, an exponential increase in ransomware attacks. And then the other most prevalent is wire fraud transfer, especially when we're talking about CPA companies and professional services. That wire fraud transfer has grown exponentially with billions of dollars flowing out of companies into the coffers of threat actors. The most recent development is with what we're calling data extractions, which back in the beginning, that's what was typically happening, is they would extract data and then sell it on the dark web, but that's not what's happening now. So really it's almost a modification of ransom attacks. So they'll come in very much like a ransomware threat actor, but they don't encrypt your data. Instead, what they do is they exfiltrate your data. And what they're looking for is different types of data than they used to. So what they're looking for is things that will embarrass you, things that can cost you in terms of it going out in any fashion. And one of them in particular that we addressed recently was where they went into a CPA's system who is involved in litigation. And there were communications between the CPA company and their lawyers, and there was confidential communications between the lawyers and the CPAs, where the CPAs were sharing important information, not so much for their business, but for the litigation. It's about litigation strategy and what needed to be produced and what they didn't want to produce. Well, that data was exfiltrated by the threat actor, and then the ransom note came in indicating that we're going to share this data with the other side. We're going to share this data with the court. We're going to publicize this data so the universe will know about it. And that gave a great deal of fear and heartburn to these CPAs, because that's the one thing that they didn't want out there, nor did they want their lawyers. The lawyers didn't want them out there too. So we contacted the lawyers right away to say, hey, here's what's going on. It's possible that this data already went to the other side, so you need to be ready for that. And then, we began the forensic process of looking at, did this data really get exfiltrated? And then, began the negotiation of the ransom so that they wouldn't share this data. So that's a relatively new development across professional services or across the board that we hadn't seen before.
Extortion at the highest level.
Absolutely. And, some of the things they're extorting is confidential information. So if there's, for example, a psychological report of a particular person, not that would be in a CPA, but maybe the CPA's clients have psychological data. They're looking to embarrass. If there are emails with the leadership of a company, whether that's, your company, my company, CPA company, if I'm sharing emails with my partners and I'm talking about employees, or more importantly, I'm talking smack about my clients, and they scoop that data and threaten to share it, it is, it could be devastating to, your relationships with your clients.
Are you seeing the amount of ransomware attacks, that the extortion of money, whether it's sharing information, is it on the rise still? Is it compounding every year? I mean, you keep hearing these data that the stats say, this year is going to be even worse than last year, but I keep hearing that every year. Are you seeing the same thing in the trenches?
It is increasing exponentially every year. I mean, that is why, and I know we're going to talk a little later, but that is why cyber insurance is more costly now, because so many cyber insurers have been hit so hard because they also weren't prepared for the exponential increase. And they didn't have any predictive data to show that it was going to increase at the level it is. So what's happening is the amount that is being requested is higher. We don't see the little threat actors who are blow and go. And what I mean by that, they used to come in and have a little ransom, and you pay whatever, you can negotiate down to a very small amount. And then they just, they disappear and give you your decryption key and go on their merry way. Well, that's not really what's happening now. They're locking in because there's a recognition that every single business, this operational disruption is extremely disruptive.
Yeah.
And so it is the ransom numbers have gone up over the years.
What about AI? I mean, there's a lot of news talking about AI and with ChatGPT, et cetera. I mean, are you seeing this being now introduced into the cyber attacks?
Yes, and really where we're seeing the use of ChatGPT is with any type of social engineering scam, but particularly in these wire fraud transfers. And again, just to go back a little bit, those are really exposing businesses because the dollars are going up. But with that, what we're seeing is that however the threat actor gets into the system, and that's a different question. But once they do, and they're looking to manipulate others outside the company or within the company, the ChatGPT quickly analyzes and assimilates the way of communication. Like used to be a threat actor had to sit in the system and watch the communications go back and forth so that the threat actor could understand the nuances of someone's particular communication style. That's not necessary anymore. They just unleash ChatGPT, simulates it, and then begins communicating. So there's much rapid assimilation of the data they need. So while a threat actor might have sat in your system for 6 months, 3 months, and then initiated, now ChatGPT allows them to do it immediately.
How and why are hackers targeting accounting firms other than having the name CPA and their domain name or their email address? I mean, how and maybe more importantly is why do you think that hackers are attacking CPA firms or accounting firms in general?
Because CPA firms, two major reasons. One, CPA firms are generally an easy target because while what I have seen is most CPA firms, other than really large, sophisticated firms, aren't paying attention and aren't really trying. They think this is never going to happen to me. I don't really hold any data. So we don't see on the front end CPA firms taking the necessary steps to do what I call cyber hardening, making sure that they're not one of those that's going to be exploited. So anytime you see a CPA firm from a threat actor standpoint, they may be an easy mark. So that's one. Two is that CPA firms actually hold very valuable data because you have K-1s, you have tax returns, you have bank statements, you have social security numbers, all the things that threat actors can sell or manipulate. You have invoices that can be manipulated. So there's all types of financial data that can be utilized by threat actors to exploit either the CPA firm directly or a CPA firm's client base.
What about the accounting firm that says, I want to do investment into IT security, but these tools and the services associated with beefing up my security is just cost prohibitive. It's not in the budget. It's not budgetable in general. What would your advice to them be?
Well, I think it's true that you have to go through a cost benefit analysis. You have to understand the risks associated with a ransomware attack or a wire fraud transfer. Those are the two that you really need to be looking at in your business. And the importance of that is can you afford not to invest in cybersecurity? And again, cost benefit. But if you don't, and there is a ransomware attack, it will completely disrupt your operations. And if it does that, you may not have a bottom line. It could be 10 days, it could be 6 months to a year where you're actually up and operational again. And if you don't have the proper cybersecurity insurance, you don't have any way to pay the ransom. Those ransoms have gone way up. So you're trapped. You're trapped if you don't have the money to pay the ransom and you don't have the money to get your system stood up again. Either way, you're without a business. You're without operations for a very long period of time, and it completely blow you up. So I think the question should be, can we really afford to forego and risk that our company goes under?
Yeah, when you put that in that perspective, it really changes your how you look at the problem. And it's a matter of, these are small business owners that started a business, and this is their nest egg. This is their future, both on a personal level and also the number of employees. And if you don't take care of that nest egg, it may not be there. And that's a serious topic. Okay. Thank you, Beth, for sharing your experience and your expertise on this important topic. And for those who are still with us, thank you for joining us today. If you would like more tips and best practices from the experts, please like and subscribe and more videos. Cheers.